I just want to welcome everybody. I'm Julie Bodnar, and I'm the organizer of Plant-Based Healthy Cincinnati. We've started about 2 years ago, and thank you to everybody who came tonight, because this by far is the largest group that we've had. So thank you so much, and I hope you're enjoying the chili. Betsy's going to start talking. Dr. Larder's going to talk in a few minutes. Our group meets here. Jeba Moses and the Seventh-day Adventist Church let us use this facility for free 6 times a year, which is amazing. And it allows us, to have these events and share information with different speakers, with potlucks, with the chili cook-off this month, and some different things. If you'll see on the agenda, we have the next 2 meetings. The next one will be a Tuesday evening, March 17th, St. Patrick's Day, so we'll probably have some kind of a green theme. And then the other day we have scheduled so far is May 3rd, again on a Sunday. And I want to keep this brief so we can just keep moving along. Dr. Larder has a great presentation on why med school made her a healthy, plant-based vegan. And as far as announcements, I think that's it. This year we are looking to have some small groups, and that was one reason we asked for the zip codes. It's great to have the big meetings, but especially for people who are transitioning or starting a plant-based lifestyle, we would like to be able to offer smaller groups where we can just get together, small potlucks, and help people through that. Also, probably some cooking classes. So that's kind of what's on the agenda. We have a Facebook page. We do not have a website yet, but hopefully that will be one of the next things coming. We're also filing for a 501c3 status for a nonprofit, which will help with contributions and be able to afford the website and everything. So with that, if you have any questions, you can contact me through the Facebook page or my email or my phone number, and I'd be happy to talk to you. One thing about our group is it's not, everybody is on this path at different stages. Some people may have just started. Some may have been vegan or whole foods plant-based for, 20 years. But the whole point of this group is to support and educate. So no matter where you are on that spectrum, we just really want to provide community. And with that, Jeba, would you like to say a few things?
Good afternoon, everybody. Why do some of you look sad? They say that people who eat plant-based are the happiest people under the sun. Have you heard that? Yeah, so if you have a long face, I might think otherwise about you. If you have read about the blue zones, what I'm sharing with you is a fact. That people who eat plant-based foods are in so many ways happier than those who eat animal products. This is like singing to the choir, but I do not have to tell you or try to convince you that broccoli is better for you than donuts. Does anybody need convincing? Did you know that, according to research, 92% of society knows that broccoli is better for them than donuts? But why do we not make the shift? So part of our endeavor to help people to make the shift is this program called the Full Plate Living. You probably picked up one of these flyers. If not, on the way out. May not be for you, but for someone who would like to make the transition. This is an 8-week program where we teach participants how to make the switch experientially from donuts to broccoli and stick with it. I have people here who have been through this program and they will testify to that. It is an incredible 8-week journey. And if you're interested, we would like for you to take this to your siblings, cousins, uncles, aunts, children, and ask them to sign up. This room usually gets packed out for this journey. It is awesome. We teach not about why broccoli is better than donuts for you. Rather, we spend time teaching participants how to make the change gradually that it will stick with you. And it will be an incredible experience. Julie and her team will always provide food samples for each of the classes, and we learn incredible things, and I think it is an awesome journey. All I have to say is we have some physician friends who have started referring their patients to this class. So I would like to say to you, please don't say, well, it's January 19, I can wait till March the 2nd. Probably by mid-February, the class will be full. And you might have to wait a long time before this class if you want to be part of this. So I would suggest, there is a number to call. We would like for you to take it seriously. If not for you, pass it to someone along who has a sad face, because we would love to have more people in Greater Cincinnati who smile a lot more. Thank you. So, yes? What's the class limit in size? Well, it will be 45 participants plus a lot of facilitators. So there'll be about 60 people in this room for the class, yes. So, is it ready? Time for Betsy? Yeah. All right, so without much more things to say, we want to welcome, come on, Betsy up front, Dr. Larder, our friend who has done some incredible things, and I think you are going to enjoy what she has to say. So, to help the presenter present really well, give her a smile. I'm a communicator, and when people have long faces, we work hard to get them going. But if you give her a smile, that'd be awesome. Welcome, Betsy.
Hi. We'll see if this microphone works sufficiently. Hi, I'm Betsy, or Dr. Larder. Either way is fine. It doesn't matter either way. I'm so excited to see this room full of people. There's a few people I know, a lot of new faces. It's sometimes a hard world out there, and I'm coming off a really, really tough week of work. There's been a lot of bad things that have happened and sad things that have happened. And so just coming here and seeing you all here, excited, smiling like Jeba said, and kind of hoping and dreaming and thinking about like a different way to live and wanting more out of life just gets me so excited after a pretty tough work week. So thanks. It's good to see you. All right. Let's see here. Oh, and I'm using my phone as the clicker for the first time ever. So sorry if there's a technical difficulty, but we'll see if it works. So what are we going to talk about today? So the good thing is this is January, a new year. So we're going to kind of take it back to the basics. So I'm sorry if some of you have kind of heard this kind of stuff before, but I know there's lots of people in this room who have not heard this before. So what I'm going to talk about today is whole food, plant-based, and low fat. Now this can all get complicated, and you can put lots of labels on it, right? Even the title of the talk, vegan or plant-based or healthy or not. So these are the tenets that I like to keep it simple. Whole foods, plant-based, and low fat. The way you can think of that negatively is not processed, no animal products, and no oil. Okay? And we'll talk through some of that stuff, but just to keep it simple, what we are talking about and what we're not. So this is kind of the basics. The other one obviously is positive. This is what you can't do, but the other is what you can do. All right, so this is just a little bit quick slide on who I am. So I'm an internal medicine hospitalist here in the town, so internal medicine trained for mostly dealing with chronic diseases. I am from Michigan, so that's where I went to undergrad. I did my med school in Colorado, and I did residency here in the city. But these three men, as amongst many, many physicians in this country who have gone way before me, is who I learned my nutrition information from. As we all know in medical schools today, we're not taught real kind of well, we're not taught a lot of truth about nutrition, but we're also just not taught it, okay? We're focusing on kind of stopping fires and medicines and modern kind of American medicine as we know it right now. So this is, during med school, I did a lot of electives and elective study time with each of these three men in their programs. So that's where a lot of the basis of the information is coming from. And then also, again, like I said, nothing that I'm going to say today is new. These people have been doing this way before me. This picture I just put up here because you're not alone. I do understand that at this moment in my life, I am thin, and some people think, oh, must always have been that way, and that's not true. I too have had my own personal journey. In college I had freshman 15, and then the next year I had the sophomore 15 more, and the junior 15 more, and so I actually was a little part of my story was an unhealthy vegetarian for many years. Lots of potato chips and mac and cheese and things like that. So anyway, I also have my own personal journey that I'd love to share anytime. Okay, so the American diet. So actually, this is what our government's recommending right now. And they changed this when the Obama administration was in office. I really actually like this plate. I'll be honest with you. Have you guys seen this before? Anyone seen this before? Okay, sometimes it's up around hospitals or nutrition offices or whatever. So what I like about it is it's really simple. You said the pyramid, which we did all know, but it's very simple because you can look at your plate and kind of visualize it. So it's helpful. So the left half, fruits and vegetables, 1,000% true, it's wonderful. The right half, so half of that being grains and the other half being protein. They took meat off of it for the first time, the word meat. I thought that was huge. Like, that's a really big deal. That's not subtle. That was a very big deal that it didn't say the word meat up here. And then actually, it's kind of also subtle, but if you can tell, the protein is less than that half. You guys notice that? So it's less than that half. So just remember, I know people always talk, where to get your protein. Even the recommendation, it's very distinctly not quarters. So it's very distinctly a little bit less. So you just don't have to worry that much. You're going to get what you need, I promise. And then the dairy, that's just because the dairy lobbyists are really strong. So my change to this would be this. So I would just change it to this. So I would just put whole grains, so always being whole. I would say protein can be from should be from plants, of course, from what I teach and live. And then dairy just needs to be water. So I'm really excited because I've actually kind of developed the kind of times I've talked and shared with people over times, and I got to change some of the slides this time because things are advancing. So one thing that's advancing is Canada is awesome. So the recommended Canadian diet, they actually took milk off. Do you guys see that in the top right? No milk. It just says water should be your drink of choice. And that's huge. It's really a big deal. And then technically in the description after this on the Canadian website, they specifically say choose protein foods that come from plants more often. Okay, so they do say that, so I love it. And then the rest is the same, fruits and vegetables, half, a little bit, one portion whole grains and the other portion protein. So they have done an awesome job. Okay, so actually can you go back one, babe, real quick? So I just wanted to start with this to, again, just kind of start with the simple things, okay? And then talk about the two governments of just saying, sometimes you'll be in rooms where you think like the word plant-based or vegan, you're off the wall and you're weird and you're one of 5% and people are like looking at you like you're crazy and they're doing very unhealthy diets like keto and all these other stuff. But there is an entire government out there. Well, first of all, our government's pretty darn close to saying it. And then there's this government and lots of others and the World Health Organization that are saying it, okay? So this is truth. This is what is healthy, okay? And then you can keep it simple. And if you need to come back to these plates, that's where it is. Okay, so the next slide, if it is working. Okay, so now we're going to talk about some of the unfortunate reasons why we need to be talking about this, and that's diseases. So most Americans are ill and are dying prematurely. And unfortunately, most of them are enduring some really unnecessary suffering. Premature death, 90% of heart disease, diabetes, and strokes of those deaths cause someone to die sooner than they otherwise would have. And that's just really sad. 70% deaths from cancer. Clearly preventable. So some of these statistics get really hard to gather. Luckily, more and more the organizations are coming out, standing by them saying, yes, all our studies show this. But clearly preventable is 65% of diseases of deaths from chronic disease. 65%, that's a lot. Okay, are they're clearly preventable, the chronic diseases people have. Just a fun cartoon of evolution, but what's really happened. Right? That's like what's actually really happened. It's unfortunate and sad, but it's true. We're not moving, we're drinking drinks, we're getting big. It's sad. Okay, so before I jump into, I do have kind of a list that I'm going to talk through of 8 facts that I learned straight from medical school that support plant-based diet. And so we're going to go through all those. Before I go to those, this is also from medical school and evidence-based, but I want to kind of just talk about lifestyle. So modifiable risk factors is what we call them. This is what you have the ability to choose, right? You can modify it. You were born with a set of genes and who you are. You're going to be susceptible to different things. One family might get cancer. One family might get diabetes. One family gets heart disease. So you're born with whatever, but what's modifiable is what you do every day. So that's what this is. So it's healthy lifestyle behaviors that prevent a majority of chronic diseases. The good thing is, again, we've actually known this for a long time, right? Like Jeba was saying, it's not a secret that broccoli is good for you. We've known that. The food industry, unfortunately, has confused us and got us addicted to other foods, but it's been pretty simple, the lifestyle advice, for a long time. It's just in 2020 we've complicated it. So first and foremost, these are in order of importance and impact on death. So first and foremost is tobacco. So if anybody in here is still struggling with tobacco, start there, please. It will give you the longest, healthiest life and change the most about your health that you can. So start there. 1-800-QUIT-NOW is something you could call. Talk to your doctor, your friends, anybody. Talk to me. So first and foremost, stopping tobacco is the best thing you can do for yourself. But number 2 is eating lots of fruits and vegetables. So, I mean, I didn't even say plant-based diet, right? But eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. The more fruits and vegetables you're eating, there's not even room for the rest. So eating lots. Healthy weight. BMI is just a calculation that you can do to figure out your height to weight ratio. Regular physical activity. And then low or no alcohol intake. So some of the studies I have here, or some of the numbers I have in a minute, some of the studies were 4 out of 4 of these, and some included the alcohol and didn't. It's just whether or not they decided to do list 4 or 5, but alcohol is always the 5th one if they include it. So, what do you think we do the best at in America? What do you guys think of these guys? What are we doing the best at?
No tobacco.
Some exercise, no tobacco. No tobacco is what we're the best at. Absolutely. And actually, very good. Thankfully, as I've updated my slides just in the past, I don't know, it's probably been 6 or 7 years, each time I always double check, that one actually has even gone up. So we're doing better and better at that. Unfortunately, there's this vaping crisis. Please don't do it. But the tobacco, we're getting better, which is amazing. What do you think? Anyone have an idea of what we're next best at? Can you just say anything? Someone said exercise. All right, let's talk about the numbers real quick. So real quick, eating lots of fruits and vegetables is 5 servings a day. So 5 servings a day, 1 apple, 1 banana, 1 vegetable each of your 3 meals. That's not that crazy, okay? If you're plant-based, you're gonna get way more than that. But if you're eating a standard diet and you wanna get your 5 servings a day, that's all you gotta do. An apple, a banana, and 1 vegetable with each meal. Healthy BMI, that's just the number. Physical activity, really just moving. Just move. We live in a very sedentary culture now. Yes, we've got numbers, aerobic, 30 minutes, 5 times a week. Can do a lot in one day and a little less the next day. Doesn't really matter. Muscle strengthening, carry some things, walk up some steps, things like that. You don't have to do CrossFit. You don't have to do marathons. You can if you want, but you don't have to, right? We just got to move. We don't move anymore, right? We don't even, God, goodness, we don't even open our trunks anymore. Right? Like the motion of closing a trunk, that's like an exercise in the gym, but we have to drive to the gym to do our exercise because we don't close our trunks, right? So just move, just carry things, walk upstairs when you can, do those kind of things. So anyway, so that's the physical activity. And then low or no alcohol, technically for a woman it's 1 or less a day drinks, and for men it's 2 or less. And those are the standard drink size. So wine is like 5 ounces, I think. So not the big wine glass, things like that. Okay, so what are we doing the best at? We are doing the best at tobacco. Eat lots of fruits and vegetables, 10%. That just came out. It was updated in 2018 from the CDC. It was like 22%. It was the lowest, but now it just plummeted. Okay? People are not even eating basic fruits and vegetables. 10% of adult Americans. That's so sad. Breaks my heart. So that's just the one thing. And it's number 2 on the list, right, of impact on death. It's the second most important. And then we are actually better than I thought at physical activity. That went up a little bit slightly as well. So I think some of that we're starting to rethink through. There are some nice trends in our population right now trying to get back to movement. So that's good. And then unfortunately, we don't need to go into details, but alcohol just makes me sad. There's just like a lot of people still drinking a lot. So yeah. Oh, shoot, that's okay, I already exposed it. Anyway, do we think that educated and upper income people are better? They're not. So 4 out of 4, 3% of Americans get 4 out of 4. So the top 4, only 3% of Americans are doing that. Not smoking, eating fruits and vegetables, moving their body, and not being overweight. 3%. Very, very small. 4 out of 4 for the well-educated and the upper income, it's only 5%. That's not that much higher if you have money, you know, and you maybe you say, okay, you're educated and this other person's not. And 5 out of 5 for the health professionals, only 4%. So your doctors don't know this, your nurses don't know this, your pharmacists don't know this, half the nutritionists don't even know this. So anyway, we're not doing well, and we have a lot to go. And if you walked away with anything, it's just eat your darn fruits and vegetables. I don't care what you call it, and if you're 100% or 95% or whatever, just eat your fruits and vegetables. Okay. Any questions right at this moment? I'm going to have questions later, but I just feel like I kind of fire hosed you right now. Anyone have some burning question about this? Okay. All right, we're going to jump, I think, the next slide. Unfortunately, because of the phone, I can't see what the next slide is. But, yeah, okay, we're going to start the med school stuff. So, why med school turned me into a whole foods, plant-based, low-fat eater. That's complicated to say. So that's why I just say why it turned me into a vegan. Because that's easier to say. It's easier if I'm going to a wedding to check the box vegan than to list this. But in truth, you know, what I believe and know about health is whole foods, plant-based, and low-fat. But ultimately, it's why it turned me into a vegan, because at the time when I started med school, I was an unhealthy vegetarian, very unhealthy, and med school flipped me. So, all right, fact 1. Dietary animal fat is proven to be associated with cancer. This one is actually pretty heavy in the beginning. In the end, we're a little less heavy, but in the beginning, it's heavy. So I don't know if people know that. Animal fat is linked to cancer. So the fact specifically that I remember in medical school was high animal fat and low fiber intake is associated with colon cancer. And then the conclusion was a daily fiber consumption of 40 grams a day may decrease your colon cancer risk by 50%, which is great. This is from most of you don't care, but this is from a book called Robbins and Cotran, Pathologic Basis of Disease, which is a book that most med students have to read across the entire country. So that's where it came from at the time. But I remember hearing that, animal fat linked to colon cancer. And then they said you need to increase your fiber in your diet in order to decrease your risk of the colon cancer. And I was like, why can't you just not eat the animal fat? Yeah. And I was baffled, and I was just confused, and I was learning, and I had a lot of knowledge to still learn, and I was just baffled. I remember looking at my friend being like, wait, why wouldn't the conclusion just to be not eat the animal fat? And yes, eating the fiber is good. So fibers from plant-based products, animal products, 0 fiber. Okay, so when people are saying eat fiber, it's eat vegetables and fruit. Yeah. So it was baffling to me. That moment when I heard that fact in medical school is when I started a notebook and I started writing everything down in medical school that linked straight to plant-based medicine. So that's why I'm extra passionate about that specific fact. And then there was a fact, increased dietary fat intake linked to breast cancer. That's just dietary fat. Diet rich in meat and fat is linked to bladder cancer. So that's what I learned in med school. Fast forward to I'm really excited that So I know this is like alarming, but the sad thing is it's true, right? Like I just learned that in medical school, and then there is an organization out there that who I love and highly respect. PCRM organization, they are doing some campaigns to try to bring awareness to these topics, and they are targeting the states that have the highest risk of these diseases. So, like for example, unfortunately, I know we're here in Ohio, so we know West Virginia, right next door to us, has some really bad colon cancer rates, incredibly one of the highest in the country. So there's a lot of things there, but it's true, and it just makes me so sad. And I've been recently reinvigorated about this fact because of this organization. So processed meat is a Category 1 carcinogen from the World Health Organization. Tobacco is a Category 1 carcinogen. So our physicians used to walk around the hospital smoking, and we don't anymore, thank God, and we've learned and we've moved from that. But my bypass patients can still ask for bacon, probably. No, I don't know exactly what they can ask for. There are some advancements in hospital food options, but I know at least my non-bypass patients can still ask for it. So that'd be like asking for a cigarette, which is crazy. It shouldn't be in our hospitals. So the processed meat is hot dogs, bacon, ham, sausage, beef jerky, right? Okay. So the American Institute of Cancer Research, which I've learned recently to really love them, some of these societies of physicians and organizations are also still influenced by money, unfortunately, right? They have sponsors by like Yoplait or whatever. So unfortunately, even our truth gets confused, like the common word we're using out there, fake news, right? There's also fake news in medicine as well. So I don't know what's going on with AICR, but I'm loving what they're putting out because everything they put out is 100% true in the plant-based, in the diet world. It's so exciting. So this is their report on their website, and they did 99 studies from around the world. They compiled them all these studies. It included 29 million adults. It was 247,000 cases of colon cancer. And then they look at these people and the lifestyles they led, and they try to make conclusions to help us. And they concluded what increases your risk is red and processed meat, alcohol, and excess body fat. What decreases your risk is physical activity, whole grains, and foods containing fiber, which we know is plant-based foods. And for Jeba, there's a broccoli stalk right there. So I just was really excited because it's clear, even the cancer organizations are saying, hey guys, like we need to be staying away from these things. So I was really excited that they came out with this. So they said that they think 47% of United States colon cancer cases could be avoided this year by eating well. So if people change what they ate and they stayed thinner, then they could probably not get colon cancer. There's a lot of details about all this, but some of that makes a little sense if it's just hard for you to remember, right? Like your colon is where every single thing you eat goes through. Right? So, I mean, yes, it's all holistic and our body's important, but just think about that, right? It's toxins. So eventually it makes sense that there's a strong link from what we eat to our colon cancer. It's not just random. All right. I don't remember what's next. Oh yeah, fact 2. So obesity is proven to be associated with cancer. I promise these are the only 2 with cancer, but that's what got me fired up in the beginning, is because it just seems so important to me. But this one is just straight obesity, unfortunately. Just straight up having excess weight on your body, more than your body should have, which is one stressor for the body, but just that alone was associated with cancer. So again, in the time, the book that I was reading at the time when I was in medical school, this is the links it listed. So these cancers. The AICR Cancer Research, they came up with these cancers, 12. So since 10 years later, they have been bold enough to say there's 12 linked to simply being overweight. That's all of them, basically. Esophageal, mouth, liver, breast, gallbladder, pancreatic, endometrial. I mean, it's all the most common cancers you think of. So it's certainly not helping, and it's certainly starting to be a risk factor. It's definitely a risk factor for you not doing well if you do get cancer too. So if anybody, you or your family members have cancer, or anyone you know, the best thing you could do is get thin to an appropriate, healthy weight and be as eat the healthiest diet you can, because then you'll be strong for whatever your oncologist may offer you. Okay? But that's the best thing you can do. All right. Oh, I love this one. I just added this one. I don't know if you guys have heard this before. So genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger. I didn't say this first, and this person's not the only person that said it, but I love it, and I've used it a lot, and it's really helpful for people to hear, because we can have a kind of like a fatalistic, woe is me, this is the cards I was dealt kind of mentality, or we can at least do our part and say, I can do everything I can to live the healthiest life possible and give myself the best outcome, even if you are susceptible to something. So. All right. Okay, fact 3. All right, no more cancer talk. Fact 3. Weight loss and the DASH diet are the most effective non-pharmacological methods to lower your blood pressure. So a lot of people that end up in rooms like this are people that don't want to go on blood pressure meds. They say, oh no, shoot, that was my final moment, so I don't want to go on blood pressure meds, anything I can do. Or the other common thing I hear is I don't want to go on statins. So that's for your cholesterol. And people get muscle aches with it, and people don't like it. So they're like, oh, I don't want to take that. That's where I draw the line. So I wanted to address that, and we were taught this in med school. So here's the top 5 things to do to lower your blood pressure without medicines. Weight loss, the DASH diet, which we're going to talk about, which, spoiler alert, is basically a plant-based diet. Exercise, same recommendation. Low sodium, so we'll mention that because I didn't talk about that earlier. And then decreasing your alcohol. So it's all the same themes, right? It's all running together. It's all the same. So the first one is the DASH diet. So a DASH diet, quote unquote, a diet rich in fruits and vegetables, legumes, and low-fat dairy. Unfortunately, the dairy lobbies are powerful. And low in snacks, sweets, meat, and saturated fat. That's very near plant-based, right? Right? We're talking fruits, vegetables, legumes, low in meat and saturated fat. So the one thing I wanted to expand on here is the word saturated fat, because that's not a food word, right? You don't know what that means. You see saturated fat, you don't know what to picture. So what to picture is this. So this is just literally taken from like Google Images. This is saturated fat, okay? Of course there's like, salami or something, cheeses, but there's also donuts, speaking of. There's, Fritos, there's French fries, potato chips, there's Ritz crackers. So, these are things that are either highly animal-based or they're highly processed with oils, right? All these things are they're fried, they're processed, they're packaged, they came out of a box, not out of the earth. So that's where our saturated fat is coming from. This is from Wikipedia. Okay, you could look this up yourself, but I wanted to give you the basics. So this is what saturated fat is. Animal fat products, mostly. Cream, cheese, butter, all these things. Certain vegetable products are high in saturated fat, such as coconut oil, cottonseed oil, palm kernel oil, and chocolate. I wish that all the plant-based products were perfect. I wish they were, because I love chocolate. I wish that it wasn't bad for you. This is where we get into the area of you get to choose how you want to live, and it depends on what your goals are, okay? If you're fighting colon cancer, you might want to get real serious and real healthy really fast. But people always ask me, so then how much chocolate can I have? Well, that's your personal choice, okay? But coconut oil, other than the tobacco, if there's one thing you hear today, go home and throw out whatever coconut oil you have, unless you're putting it on your body. It's very terrible for you. It's worse than lard, and it's all saturated fat. That's why it's solid at room temperature. So in your body, it is making plaques. Plaques are going to become heart attacks and strokes. That's what it's doing, okay? It's also like a billion-dollar industry.
They always used to say coconut oil was bad.
Mm-hmm. They did.
And then
See, she's been around the block.
so what brought this big thing on about how it's so good?
I love it. I'd like to answer that right now. So what happened was, do you remember, I don't know what year, 9-10 years ago, when we realized trans fats were bad. So trans fats is like a processed man-made fats. And all of a sudden, as consumers, we were all like, these are bad for us. We don't want these in our food. These are not good. Trans fats only come in processed foods. But so I remember a day when I walked into Starbucks and they like had a little sign. It was like, we no longer do trans fats. We're getting on board with this bandwagon. So all of the people, all of us, said we don't want that junk in our food, so we're going to go against trans fats. So the food industry had to find something, and it had to replace man-made trans fats with something. They literally, not joking, this is like a thing, you can look it up. I mean, it's confusing on Google because you're going to get all the different, but there are articles about coconut oil being bad, and you'll be able to read the history. In the 50s, most American households were cooking with lard. Right, I mean, back to the farm, and they were cooking with pig fat, lard, and we actually did realize health-wise that was bad. It was too high in saturated fat, and we're like, we gotta help the American families replace the lard. So they replaced it in the 50s with coconut oil and started kind of promoting it and selling it and manufacturing it. And it only lasted like 2 years because they realized, unfortunately, they switched to coconut oil in the 50s because they thought it's plant-based, it must be good for us. But unfortunately, it's not true. I mean, I wish it was. I wish all plant-based products are perfect, but we realized very shortly then it's not good for us. So it only lasted about 2 years in the kind of food industry in the 50s, and so then it went away because we realized it was so bad, it's worse than lard, and it came back because the food industry is really smart and powerful now. So when they were trying to replace trans fat, someone was like, what about coconut oil? And they were like, no, that's bad for you. They're like, well, let's just see what we can do. And literally, that is why everything is coconut now, right? So if the food industry wants coconut oil, then you have the whole coconut. So you've got, coconut flavored everything and flakes, and it's in your shampoo, and it's in your lotion, and it's this and that. Now, it doesn't matter. I love the smell of coconut, and I love the taste of some coconut. But it doesn't matter if you put it on yourself, but to eat coconut oil is very bad for you. It's high in saturated fat. What I would recommend, a quick tip, if people are thinking about that, is if you like coconut flavored things, a few flakes is okay. But coconut extract is really wonderful for something you might be baking. So bake it whatever you might be making, or if you're making oatmeal and you just do a little bit of coconut extract, that gives you the flavor you might like without the damaging products of the coconut. Okay. Great question. Unfortunately, marketing,
Because there's
money.
50 reasons why you should have coconut oil every
Yep.
day, and
Yeah,
that was all just marketing.
it's a $1 billion industry. They're doing their job very well.
I know we're talking about oils, but
Oh,
what
yeah.
about coconut milk? It tastes
Good.
great.
Good.
When you make curries with it.
Yeah, because it's like 95% saturated fat, unfortunately.
What about the lower fat one?
I wouldn't personally, I don't touch coconut milk. If I had a very occasional time out when I'm at a restaurant and there's nothing else I can choose and a coconut curry is the only option, that is plant-based and that is better than me eating a steak. So I do that. But I don't cook with it, I don't put it in everything I make, because it does taste great because it's highly saturated fat and it's really smooth to texture. I mean, that's the reason these things are attractive to us. So I personally don't recommend coconut milk, as it's the only nut-based milk that I don't recommend. The rest, there's no perfect nut-based milk. It's whatever one works for you. But the coconut milk, I don't. It's too much, unfortunately. I'm sorry. All right, we'll keep moving, but we'll have more time for questions. These are great questions. Okay, let's see if it'll go. Oh, there. Okay, so now sodium. Thanks, babe. My husband's in the back helping me flip through the slides if it makes an error. So the dietary sodium being less than 3 grams, you don't know what 3 grams is. I don't know what 3 grams is. I mean, you can sit around and calculate. Well, let's wait till the end, or if there's another second, okay? I just want to make sure we can get through everything. So, all right, let's go to the next one then. All right, so dietary sodium. Can you guys think of something that you think of as like super high in salt, high in sodium?
Tomato sauce.
Tomato sauce, potato chips, yeah. Yep, soup, bread, yep. So tomato soup is kind of what pops in my mind, like canned tomato soup makes me think of just super high salt load. Anything in a can can be, absolute. There are some things now that thankfully they're not saying low salt. Low salt still is a lot of salt. There's some now they're saying no salt added. Those are great. All right, but 1 ounce of tomato soup is 86 milligrams. Still doesn't mean much to me, but just I'm gonna compare a few things, okay? 1 ounce of cheddar cheese, twice as much as 1 ounce of tomato soup. So the way that cheese is processed, it's kind of like, I guess for lack of a better word, it's kind of like a mold, they organize it in a planned fashion to get it to the way it needs to, from cow's milk to cheese, right? Part of that process is a lot of salt to process it and then to preserve it so it doesn't go bad. So cheddar cheese is more than canned tomato soup, but when a doctor says, oh, go on a low salt diet, people stop doing cans and then they take the salt shaker off the thing, but they don't think twice about cheese. And then what's going to be more? The thing I don't like. Bacon, 560, okay? So if you're going to really go low salt, we can get rid of these things and it'll work well. A lot of the meats, right? All the processed meats, they need salt for curing and preserving and all that. So they're high salt loads in all these meats. So then I just like this diagram because it's really the food processing where all your salt's coming from. So at the table, the 6% is only 6%. So actually, you'd be better to eat a plant-based diet and keep the salt shaker on the table. Do a little bit. If it makes you like the taste of it and stay on the plant-based diet, that is amazing because you're not doing all these the processed foods. So 75% of the salt in your diet is from the processed foods. So I like this diagram. This one's actually from Dr. McDougall. He's one of my favorites, but he says this is the correct use of salt. With anything, without going into all the details of some of these topics, but like salt, sugar, and fat are the things that people add to foods to make them taste better. Always the least amount necessary to keep you on a healthy diet. So maybe when you start, if someone's in here just starting this stuff, maybe if you've got your baked potato and your broccoli, maybe you need 3 or 4 shakes of salt. That's fine right now. But then just start doing the least amount that's necessary. And you'll eventually get down to like 1 and it'll be fine and your taste buds will start to change. Okay?
Is soy sauce, tamari, like amino acids, are any of those better than table salt?
I don't know that I would say it's better. Yeah. Fact 5. Increased total cholesterol is a major risk factor for gallstones. 90% of gallstones are made of cholesterol. So have you ever had anyone that has gallstone problems? Raise your hand if you know anyone, it could be yourself, but you don't have to confess it yourself, know anyone that has had their gallbladder taken out. Okay, that's an organ we're born with. That's an organ we're born with. That just doesn't make sense. It's great. I'm thankful to surgeons. If anyone is in here, it's a surgeon or knows a surgeon or is married to one. It's incredible that we can save a life because of it. But 90% of gallstones are cholesterol. Cholesterol is only found in animal products. So when someone says I can't get my cholesterol lower, I say all you have to do is stop eating cholesterol. Just stop it. It's hard, I get it. But if you stop eating cholesterol, your cholesterol will go down. Then you work with the familial people who may have it in the thousands when they started. That's very different. But saying it's in my family, again, we talked about the gun, right? Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. Okay.
I've always had a gallbladder question.
Oh, okay.
Why do they not take out the stones and they just remove the organ? Because I'm thinking just cut it open and
Oh,
just take the stones.
that's so damaging to the organ, I would honestly say. I am honestly not a surgeon, but my best guess is, and often when they're doing it, it's very inflamed and sick at the time that they're doing it. So it is the organ that's sick. But that's a great thought. It's a great thought. Okay. All right, so fact 6 I know is right away. Shoot, you're going to have to do it. Next slide, please. Thanks. Diets high in animal protein and sodium are major risk factors for kidney stones. So same thing, kidney stones is very common, right? Lots of people know someone who's had a kidney stone. I know some people that are very passionate about kidney stones in this audience. But again, I learned this, let's bring it back. I learned this in medical school. I'm sitting in medical school and they told me diets high in animal protein and high in sodium are risk factors for kidney stones. But then you flash forward many years and I'm out in practice and nobody's talking about that. Now, a lot of my patients don't want to change anything. I'm lucky tonight to be in a room full of people who are eager and interested and want to learn. So this is where we've kind of gone, is it's gotten confusing. It's hard for the doctors. We don't know. And then a lot of patients, when we see them, aren't willing or ready to change. But if we're going to get back to the truth is that animal proteins are contributing to kidney stones, amongst lots of other things. Diets high in meat, seafood, alcohol, and soda are risk factors for gouty arthritis. So gout, also very, very common, something that lots of people will deal with, and these are lifestyle diseases. Gout specifically used to be known as like the disease of the kings. I don't know if you guys have seen some of those pictures from a long time ago, but kings had access to these meats and these rich foods back in the day, and gouty arthritis used to be a disease of the kings. So.
When
All
you
right.
say
Oh, yeah.
soda, do you
Yeah.
mean like Coca-Cola, or do you
Yeah.
mean like baking soda?
Oh, great question. Yes, Coca-Cola
Okay.
or Pepsi or Pop,
Right.
whatever you call it.
Carbonated water.
Yeah, that's a good question. Fact 8, diets high in fat and meat, low in fiber and chronic constipation are major risk factors for diverticulosis and diverticulitis. Just another common disease that we deal with all the time that was directly linked to high in fat and high in meat and low in fiber, which we know is fruits and vegetables, leading to people not having regular bowel movements, which then causes diverticulosis and diverticulitis, which are little outpouchings of your bowel that can cause problems. Okay. This is the last fact. However, I remember we missed the one. Can you go back, babe? Possibly. There was one on iron, and it's that one. Perfect. Thank you. Fact 4. Cow's milk is the culprit of illness in many young children. So I know that this is a busy slide. We don't have to go into all the details. I am not a pediatrician. I do not practice this at all every day, but I remember this from med school. Because remember, going back to what I was actually taught, because it is there. The truth is there. So number 1, they often get constipation. It was linked directly to cow's milk. Pediatrician should recommend, why don't you try something not cow's milk and see how they do. Number 2, they get iron deficiency. It's the most common nutritional deficiency in children, and cow's milk is directly linked to that. Most commonly caused by drinking too much cow's milk from occult, which is hidden intestinal blood loss in children. And then this last one I was really passionate about. So milk protein induced enterocolitis. Now it's not the most common of all these, but you can get some painless bloody stools, regurg, and vomiting. The interesting thing is that treating this, the breastfeeding mother should remove all dairy from her diet. So when we do these question banks, this one came directly from a question bank. So the interesting thing about that is all med students, when they're finishing med school, they sit down for just weeks at a time. They don't talk to anybody. We go in our rooms and close our doors and study for hours, for multiple weeks. And we do these question banks. We do about like 5,000 questions to get ready for our boards, one of the big, harder tests we do at that time of our study. There's really one major company that does it. There's lots of them out there, but there's one major company. Everybody I knew, everyone in any other med school I knew, did this same company for this question bank. When you answer these questions, it tells you the % of people that got it right. It's great because it helps you know where you're at, right? If 90% of people got it right, you're like, okay, well, I should have known that's good. I did know that. Awesome, move on. Or if it's lower and you're like, wow, I got that one right. Awesome. Not many people knew that. I'm good in that topic. This one, 13% of medical students knew this was the treatment. 13. That was the lowest at the time. I think I remember seeing a single digit once or twice on a real difficult, complex question, like a 9 or a 10, but that was very low. I remember it was the lowest when I was there. I was like, oh my God, 13%. And I was lucky to know it, but that was only because I had a very specialized set of knowledge that I was passionate about. But most people don't know this. So your doctors, they do not know that this is an option for treatment, is stopping dairy. Okay, now we can go through to the end. So there's a summary slide right after fact 8, Tony. Yeah, so why did med school turn me into a vegan? Preventable death and suffering is one major one. Cancer, high blood pressure, pediatric diseases, gallstones, kidney stones, arthritis, and diverticular disease. So these were all taught to me directly from med school. Unfortunately, the conclusion was not, okay, so then we should teach all of our patients plant-based diet. Culturally, we're not there. We haven't been there. I hope we get there one day. But yeah, that's kind of the summary from the med school knowledge. So there's a few more things I wanted to talk about that helps kind of process this, and a few major things that might be going through your mind that are also some just basic knowledge about plant-based diet and health. And then I will open up for questions. Okay? All right, good. Okay, let's just go to the next one. I'm just going to set that down. I need protein for energy. Unfortunately, you don't. Do you know what you need for energy? Carbs. Glucose. So glucose, carbohydrates, starch, it's all kind of the same word scientifically. It can come in different forms, of course, and some forms much better than the others. Obviously, Skittles is not a healthy form of carbs or glucose or starch or whatever you want to call it. But a potato is a wonderful source of glucose. So let's do the next slide. So this is very sciencey, but it's true. So if anyone has had, like, back to biology. So glucose goes in, it goes through all these processes and gets converted and converted and converted, and then it comes over here and it goes through this thing that we call the Krebs cycle. Someone in this room maybe had to memorize this at one point in time. The Krebs cycle. And then it comes out to what we call ATP, which is energy. So the input to energy is glucose. So you don't actually need protein for energy. It's actually much more psychologic, cultural, right? Like you were taught it when you were 3. So, maybe you just remember it and it was a way for you to, correlate, I should eat this because my mom told me to. But physically, you don't need it. Okay. So up here, I wanted to put this note in here real quick. That is actually the part of the cycle that goes off into ketosis. So if ketosis, the keto diet is very popular right now. It's very dangerous. Please don't do it. I've had 4 people in the ICU who have done it. So the ketosis, it's an alternate form of energy, ketones, when your body is starved. So it can make you lose weight because you're in a disease state. It's literally a disease state. It's much worse for a diabetic than your average healthy person. People can do experiments with their bodies. That's their choice. You can do whatever you want. But especially for a diabetic, it's very dangerous.
Why is it dangerous for a diabetic?
So, a great question. Just to keep it a little simple, a diabetic, type 1 and type 2, if they're sick with something, let's say they even get a urine infection or a pneumonia or something, their body doesn't process things normally and they can get this thing we call DKA. So it's called diabetic ketoacidosis. So they are already prone to have a real big problem with acid and this kind of process here. And so they do a keto diet and they give themselves DKA, which is something they try their whole lives to stay out of. Okay, that's making it very basic without going into details. But I just wanted to show here, just want to make that moment. Ketones or ketosis is a disease state that your body has as a backup mechanism so we can still live when we're starved. Okay, that's what thank God we have it, right? If we didn't have access to food, that's why it's there to keep us alive for a period of time. All right, next one. You can go to the next one. That's just literally the words to everything I just said. The fat you eat is the fat you wear. I stole that directly from Dr. McDougall. It's not mine. It's true, though. So when you eat fat, when you have excess fat, there's very little essential fat you need to eat. Very little of it. I have a whole nother talk on that, on nuts, fats, and oils. We can do another time. But when you eat excess fat, to store it is very easy because then fat just goes directly into fat. There's no conversion process. So when you eat excess, it just goes right into your belly or your butt or your whatever. But if you eat excess glucose or excess carbs or starches or whatever you want to call it, it can be sort of fat. That's true, especially if you eat people you're eating lots of it. But it actually takes energy to convert it into fat. So it actually takes some energy to do that. So eating excess fat is just so much, it's going to put the pounds on really fast. So that's kind of just the basics of that. You can move, yeah. So fat, the point of fat is it's a reserve supply for energy later. That's the point of it. Hopefully in this room everybody has access to food. That's not true for everyone in America, but if you have access to food, you probably don't need a reserve supply on your body. But there are people who do and live in states where they don't, places where they may not have access to food, but that's what the fat is there for. It also does help with some hormones and things like that. Don't get me wrong, there's some important parts to it, but the excess is for storage for later. And then, yeah, so same thing. Stored fat is only used when your glucose stores run out. That's the states of starvation. So that is how some people can lose weight, right? But that's obvious, right? You starve yourself, you're gonna burn off your fat. So, okay, we can go on. So just some real basic things real quick on the fat. So percent of calories from fat. So oil is 100%. Oil is just processed. You take an olive, you extract the oil, and you have 100% fat. It's what it is. You could eat the olive, and the olive is actually a highly fatty food, but at least you'd have some fiber from the olive. Avocado, unfortunately, is another one that's very high in fat. It's great, it's delicious, it's creamy. But if you're eating the standard American diet and now you're putting guacamole in on everything, you're not helping yourself. It's very high in fat. Cheddar cheese, of course, steak, even a lean cut is 67%. Whereas plant-based products, look at how much less fat they have. Corn, broccoli, rice, but they're all 10% or less naturally. That's natural. Okay, what satisfies hunger? This is the last topic, really. So what satisfies hunger? So there's a lot of stuff on here. So the biggest mechanism is actually the stretch receptors in your stomach. There are a lot of mechanisms, and trust me, I studied this for a long time and I don't remember any of it. But there's a lot of hormones and triggers and signals, but the top is the short-term feedback, which is minutes. The bottom is the hours to days, so that's much longer. So what we care about is the minutes, right? When do we stop eating? That's what we care about, right? And it gets messed up, but the stretch receptors in the stomach are the most important. There are other hormones for sure, but the stretch receptors are very important for you to stop. They literally have to be full, and then it signals your brain to stop. So caloric density is very important. So this is one of the topics I wanted to introduce. Of course, it works out wonderfully for plant-based eating. So if you had oil and that's all you ate, which French fries, potato chips, there's a lot of oil in those things, they don't fill you up. 400 calories of oil, your stomach is not going to be very full, and you're not going to be full, and you're going to be hungry. Beef, 400 calories, very small amount of your stomach. It's highly fat, and there's a lot of calories in that. Whereas if you had this gargantuan bowl of vegetables, that is going to fill you, and it's going to trigger you that you're full. So this is a really important concept of people transitioning and wanting to make sure they're getting what they need. What I will say, actually, unfortunately, this one is all vegetables. That's true. I kind of wish it was potatoes. I love potatoes. They're so good for you. But because one takeaway, people that are first learning this and transitioning, they think they can only eat salads. And that's not true. And the green leafies are so good for you, but they are not going to fill you up. Because this actually has cucumbers, mushrooms, I see lots of other things, tomatoes, lots of other things in there. But they think that they can only have like greens. And that condensed down is not going to fill you up very much. You have to have something with substance. So fill those up. I didn't bring it tonight, but I usually bring it to the meetings. I have a little handout I love that's my recommendation on salads. And I recommend 50% of your salad bowl, let's say you're going to make lunch, take it to work, 50% of it should not be leafy greens. So it should be beans, rice, chunks of potatoes, other broccoli, cauliflower, whatever else it is that you like, put that in there. That's what's going to keep you full. You need your greens. The leafy greens are amazing, and they do incredible things and restore a lot of damage that's been done to your body. But don't think you can only eat greens when you walk away from here. Okay, next one. Okay, we can go on. Same thing. I just said it. So this is another pictorial I liked of this. It says 200 calories. Each one is 200, right? A plate full of peppers or broccoli, even some good whole grain bread. But you get smaller and smaller, right? Like half of a Snickers bar, a tiny piece of cheese, like 7 nuts. So just keeping this in mind, if weight is a struggle for you, and again, the reasons we talked about weight, I went over with all these facts I talked about that I learned in med school, but this is a helpful tool to keep in mind, okay? Okay, so I kind of gave you a lot of information. You guys have done really good and hung in there. So back to the basics. Whole food, plant-based, low fat. It's the best thing in the world you could ever do for yourself. The best thing. The next one, again, just remembering, not processed. So we're talking about whole foods directly from the ground, not an Oreo. Okay, it's vegan. It's not good for you. You don't know what's in it. It's highly processed. No animal products and no oil, which is a process. So it doesn't need its own line, but it gets it because it sneaks in there everywhere. Okay, great. So this is awesome. So this is a bunch of slides. I'm going to see if maybe this will pick back up. I don't want you to sit here and leave thinking, oh, I can't eat anything, especially if this is new to you. Fruit is fast food, right? People always talk to me about convenience. Oh, it's not convenient. What is more convenient than picking up an apple and eating it? You don't have to peel it. Pick it up, eat it. That's very convenient. So I just love this. I thought that was really funny. Okay, just some things. You can obviously get tons of fruit. Oatmeal with berries for breakfast. Some whole grain pancakes would be amazing. A great soup like you had tonight, a chili. Another amazing bean soup. Potatoes are amazing. I go to Qdoba. I love it. It's amazing. Black beans, rice, salsa, lettuce. I think I had guacamole on that one, but I tell them a little because, God, now they give you like a pound of it. And sometimes if I've eaten a lot of decadent stuff, then I don't ask for the guacamole. I say, no, I don't need that right now. This is a friend of mine who went out to a bar and someone challenged him and said, you can't get anything at a bar that you eat. But they had baked potatoes and they had broccoli and they had salad. So he got plenty of food that night. Just a vegetable wrap, whole grain pasta with marinara, a nice veggie burger, a nice pizza, whole grain, brown rice stir fry, brown rice sushi. Okay, and these are the references. I know some of you guys don't care, but some of these I haven't updated completely in a while, I'll be honest with you. I updated some of the earlier ones from the CDC updates and such. But I do want to leave you, if I can get there, with, so the whole point is, if you remember the beginning, like, people are suffering out there. And I, Julie, I know, who's passionate, Jeba, I just want you to be able to live the best life you can. The longest, healthiest, most vibrant life. Be the most engaged as you can in the world and the people around you. And this certainly is a very, very powerful way to do that. So I'll leave that up there. I've got time. Julie, can you just tell me before we start so I know how much time should we take for questions? Okay, let's do 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm sorry, you had a question, so I'm going to get to you. I apologize.
Thank you. I'm making ambrosia, and it has a lot of coconut in it.
Okay.
And of course it has fruit, and it does have some dairy.
Yeah.
Would that be considered bad for me?
It's the actual whole coconut that's cut up.
It's coconut flakes.
Coconut flakes. So the actual, what? Oh, repeat the question. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Thanks for reminding me. So her question is, she has a dish that she likes to make that she puts a bunch of coconut in it, and she was wondering if that was okay in that form. So then I said, well, what form is it? And she said flakes. So the whole coconut, the coconut flakes, is a chopped up coconut, is probably the best form of coconut you could eat because it's the least processed. Right? Coconut oil, highly processed. So coconut oil does not look like a coconut. Coconut butter, also very processed. I didn't even know that was on the market until like 2 weeks ago, and someone asked me a question.
But I think some coconut butter is just the flakes blended.
Blended. So, but what I would tell you, it's still a highly saturated fat plant product, unfortunately. So my recommendation is, if you're going for the most healthy you can, I would do the least amount of coconut as you can in your dishes, unfortunately. I hate that for you, but find another way to flavor it with coconut if you can. So the coconut itself is still highly saturated. It's worse if you're processing it, any way, shape, or form, but just the least amount necessary with coconut, okay?
What are your thoughts about using stevia? Is that a recommended thing to use?
Oh, wow, that's a very good question, and I actually don't have an awesome answer for that. What I can tell you is I don't personally use it, not because I'm against it. I've actually have had it, but I don't think we have a ton of data on it because it's relatively recent. I think it'd probably be the least of evils. Some of the aspartame, and the name is escaping me right now, but some of, the other packets that we've had for a long time, like obviously you see Sweet and Low and Equal, and I can't remember brand name and real name, but I know aspartame specifically. There's another one that's escaping me right now. We know are bad. Okay.
Just stevia. Stevia is a natural plant.
I do know it's a natural plant. I know it's also still processed. You don't have a stevia plant at home.
Well,
So let me just hold on.
Do have one.
Pause.
Yeah.
Pause. What I'm saying is always on sweetener the least amount necessary. I think stevia is very natural. We don't have studies on it, so I can't tell you evidence about it, but I can tell you compared to other things in packets, it appears to be safe. For sweeteners, small amounts of stevia would be okay. Other small amounts of things that are naturally plant-based, such as maple syrup or agave, are options, but those are all still sugar, the least amount necessary to keep you on a plant-based diet.
Just one thing, I would not recommend any packaged stevia product that's on the market.
Great.
I have recently, in the last few years, grown a stevia plant in my backyard.
Great.
And we have dried the leaves.
Look
and
at you.
tumbled that
There you
into the
go.
tea, and
There you
that works
go.
great as a natural seasoning all
Look
by
at that.
itself,
Look
but
at that.
Not anything
Well,
that's
the-
packaged.
the-
That's
It's a lot
amazing.
different.
In the packages,
It's
you'll
amazing.
often see that
Yeah.
maltodextrin is the first ingredient.
Yeah, that's great. So it's amazing. So
Yeah.
you've gone to incredible lengths. I'm impressed. That's awesome. No, it's amazing. Go ahead. What's your question?
I just wanted to ask how you navigate work, like as
It's a great
healthcare
question.
professional and like not
Yeah.
healthcare isn't about health anymore.
Yes. Oh, that's a good question. It's hard. Oh shoot, some of my friends just popped out, and I was just about to reference them because I have some people here from work, but it looks like they just had to go. It's hard. Do you work in a healthcare facility? You don't have to share which one. Okay, you do. Yeah. So it's hard. I am very passionate about bringing my lunch. Because to me, and this is true for everybody, that if you're prepared, you're going to do so much better than if you're unprepared and you're having to look for something there. Whereas, so I do have times where I'm just so busy and I got home from work really late and I'm really tired and I just walk out the door and I didn't have anything. And I now know my few go-tos that I do have options in my building, but I know they're not nearly as good as if I brought myself something. So I do try to bring my food for my lunch most days if I can. The other thing is, the weird thing is, only until very, very recently has this even ever come up at work. I'm in a new job. I've only been there like a year and a half. So I don't talk about it to my colleagues unless they ask. And again, I've only been there a year and a half, so this is pretty fresh for me. It started to come up. People started to know. People are starting to ask me questions. It's been very exciting. It's been very fun. But before even that, and anybody knows about who I am or what I do or what I'm passionate about outside of work, people watch you. And I've been baffled by how much they watch me. People that don't know I'm vegan or plant-based, they watch what I eat. And it's really interesting. So that's another reason actually I do bring is I want to remind people that it is okay to bring a sack lunch to work. When did that become not okay? But I'm in places where, I had one time where I had a colleague who goes, "What are you eating over there, carrots?" I was like, "Yeah." I'm eating carrots. Is that, well, when did it become wrong to eat carrots, okay? But that's the environment we're in, right? So I do bring as much as I can because people are watching me, and I know I'll do better if I bring. There's a few options that I've found in hospitals. Of course, there's always a salad bar. Almost always, but I've not worked in a hospital with that one. I am a balsamic vinegar person. I don't do the vinaigrette. They usually have balsamic vinegar or red wine vinegar, which makes me happy. If I had to do a vinaigrette, I would do it to stay plant-based. But so I usually would load up on one of those salads, half garbanzo beans, a bunch of greens. They always have cucumber. They always have tomato. Always have mushrooms. And some vinegar on top. So that's what I'll do. There are, to be honest with you, there's hummus and crackers. Crackers are processed and full of oil. They're not awesome. But if I'm starving and I didn't bring lunch, there's usually some sort of hummus cracker situation somewhere. Maybe some carrots somewhere. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
So what about encouraging others? Because
Yeah.
when I learned this knowledge,
Yes.
and I was like, you want to share it, and
Yes.
then you find out they don't want to hear it.
So that's really important, and it's very intense everywhere, but also the most probably two intense places are at your relatives' houses, and then I think in the hospital actually, but it's intense. So speaking to that at work, for me, and this goes with patients right now. Now, I work in the hospital, so when people are so sick, they have to stay the night. So I'm in a very different setting than a person outpatient that really should be having big conversations like this. That's the path I've chosen, and I love it. But I walk through the door when they open it, but I don't open the door. That's kind of how I say it best. So if there's someone opens it and they start asking me questions, or what about the food, or what do you think about this, or can I get a second opinion? I had someone actually ask me that yesterday, and I said, what do you mean, why do you want a second opinion? And it wasn't from me, it was about like specialists and kind of some procedure this person was up against. And I said, okay, and then we started talking more, and she was kind of trying to figure out what she can do without having the procedure. And I said, well, I know one thing you can do that's really powerful. And I did start talking about diet and lifestyle and changes. So if the door opens, I do walk through it and I do see where they're at, see what they're open to. Some people are really open to learning and they want to know, and some people aren't. And I used to get a little more defensive personally. Like I used to, if someone said, because anyway, some people would ask, well, why are you X, Y, and Z, whatever label you want to put on it. And I would pause and I would say, do you really want to know? Because a lot of people don't really want to know. And that makes them at least take a second thought and then go, yeah. And it opens their mind a little bit. And then I don't fire hose them like I would tonight. Like I don't tell them this. So I don't do that much. But yeah, basic things I say, plant-based or vegan or not eating animal products, that's the healthiest thing you can do for yourself, hands down. So I encourage people, and I just met someone in the elevator the other day, and she mentioned to someone else that she was vegan, and I gave her a high five, and I said, that's amazing, that's the healthiest choice you can ever make for yourself. So things like that, if that helps. It's hard. Last thing on the families, houses, it's just hard. You know your family better than we do. Mostly, let them live their life, whatever life they want, unless they open the door. And if they open it, go through it. And then live the healthiest example you can. They're going to want to see that, right? That's the most powerful thing you can do for them. And then, okay, side note, last one on the food. I also love bringing really delicious things that look awesome. Because if they see me only eat spinach, then they think, well, she eats like a bird. That's, why. I could never live on spinach. So I do try to bring really healthy, awesome things. So I do that, whether it's a potluck or it's whatever. Yeah. I see a couple. We'll go all the way in the back, and then I think, did you have one, sir? Okay. All right, all the way in the back.
Is there an age below which you would not recommend plant-based?
Nope.
Or if they're old enough to chew and have dead teeth and...
Correct. They can go from breast milk directly to plant-based milk, or plant-based diet, plant-based food. Yeah. Yep. Great question.
A baby whose mom is not breastfeeding, do you have any suggestions of what they should drink besides the...
I don't have a good recommendation just because I'm not educated in that, but they are out there. I know they are. I've had some friends have to go through that, so there are options out there. I don't think they're awesome yet, but they're coming, like more and more, because they're having allergy issues in this country and all that. So there's more and more good options. Yeah, it's a good question.
Do you recommend a DHA supplement?
I do not. And I just want to make sure we're communicating right. You mean like a fish oil type of omega supplement.
Options.
And then there's the algae-based. Okay,
Right, like there are some
great.
doctors that are starting to recommend that. And
Correct.
then there's also some research saying that it can increase your risk of prostate
Correct.
cancer in men.
Correct.
There's a lot
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. The only supplement I recommend is vitamin B12. If you are like 100 or near 100% plant-based diet, then you should take vitamin B12. It's very little. You can get methylcobalamin, not cyanocobalamin, methyl, because the cyano has some cyanide in it. And you need a very little amount once a week, and it's only because our food's it's really washed now. So if you were plant-based and you grew your own food and you picked it up out of the soil and then you ate it, you probably would get enough of the B12 you need from the soil, but nowadays that's not really what's happening. And then occasionally a vitamin D, especially people that live in areas where they're not going outside a lot. So we see that a little bit more in the northern Michigan, and of course if you're actually deficient, that's different, but preventive-wise, there are some people who just literally never go outside, or they live in Michigan, and it's that there's some helpfulness to that. Go ahead.
With our foods not being grown the way they used to be grown, like 50 years ago.
Yeah.
I've been taking spirulina, which I've been feeling really good results from.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the spirulina?
I have to be honest, I don't have thoughts on it. I'm sorry, that's like 2 questions you've asked on things I haven't personally, passionately researched. I don't want to even speak more because I'm sorry, I don't have thoughts. But it sounds like maybe I should read about it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I recently went to my doctor and said I've changed to plant-based. And
Yeah.
they said, what do you eat? So I
Yeah.
told them what I eat in a day, like oatmeal for breakfast.
Yeah.
Potatoes and vegetables for lunch.
Yeah.
And soup for dinner. And
Yeah.
they're like, you're not getting enough protein.
Yeah, well, they're wrong.
What do you tell your doctor? They're like, oh, you have to go see our nutritionist.
Well, so a doctor-patient relationship is very complicated, and I don't know your doctor, unfortunately, so that's difficult. But you're allowed to take whatever they say with a grain of salt, of course, knowing that I am telling you you are not protein deficient. If you are calorie sufficient in a developed world, you're not protein deficient. There's never been a single case. Never been a single. If you have enough calories in the day, and you live in a developed world, you get enough protein, period. Okay? So whatever they're saying, you can do whatever you think works best for your relationship with them. I don't want you to burn the relationship if you like them otherwise. You can always say, would you be willing to, I can bring in an article and just leave it with them, and they can maybe it'll open a door for them to think. And then there are a few people in the city that are starting to be a little bit more open and friendly to these topics, and I'd be happy to refer you to someone who I think is a little bit more open. Go ahead, Jeba.
To add to what you says, to answer her question,
Yeah.
it has been shown that ounce per ounce, broccoli has more protein than beef. Just for your information.
I love it. Wealth of knowledge. You're the best. I'm going to take 2 more, and then so that people can go if they need to. I'm not rushing out. So if you have something burning and you wanted to connect, I'll be here. Go ahead.
This is a comment question.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems that we have when we are dealing with people that aren't familiar with the plant-based diet is that we call these problems diseases. Right? So they think it's something that comes through the air, or they don't understand where these disease states come from.
Right.
And if the medical world could use maybe a different way of using different words to describe their state, I think we could be a lot more effective.
No, it's a really interesting thought. There's no doubt. It's complex how we got to a place that people don't understand why they got what they got in the chronic disease standpoint when we know.
Are there words that are out there that
I've not really heard of any. I mean, my hope is just ongoing education for everybody to understand, public and doctors, to understand that this is where it's coming from, right? I mean, I was taught this stuff in the medical school, but if you polled average doctors and they said, do you think obesity is linked to cancer? I bet the average doctor would say no. You know? Maybe not a breast cancer doctor because they know, but the average general doctor, I don't think they would say, oh, no, it's not linked. It's not proven to be linked. They might say, maybe, but it's proven to be linked, and it has been for a while. So I think, to me, I love what you're thinking. I think it's a really good thought, but I think just ongoing education and awareness for us to understand, right? We didn't used to think that cigarettes cause lung cancer, but now we know.
Right.
It's, you can still choose to smoke, but you at least know that you're putting yourself at risk. So my hope is, number one, for people to start understanding, right? We need to understand the stuff about processed meats. That's true. That's real. So thank you for your comment. Last question. Anyone burning for a question? Yeah, go ahead.
How do you go about finding the plant-based stuff?
Good question. I'd love to end on that. It is, of course, it's difficult. Not everywhere, but so I've been in the city, I guess now 5 years, maybe. 3 years in residency, and then now I've been out for a year and a half. So I'm still kind of learning and networking and trying to find people outpatient world, because I don't do outpatient. So I'm starting to find some. But what I can tell you, the healthier your doctor, the better lifestyle advice they're going to give you. And there's studies for that. So there's studies, right? If your doctor is overweight and sick and taking a lot of medicines, they're not going to really be working with you on changing your lifestyle. They've not even changed their own lifestyle. And there's a lot of studies on that. So I can say that right to you as far as just judging and picking and trying to do the best for yourself. The healthier they are, as an example. I would be happy. I don't even know if I could do it on Facebook. I'm trying to think of a good way. I think I'd like you to come up to me afterwards, and I can give you a few names in the city of a few people that have kind of said they're open to it if you're looking to change. I do have a few in a few different systems, like one in Christ, one in UC and stuff, but they've not told me it's okay to share it in front of a large group of people. But because they're not 100%, they're not standing up here with me, right? They're not like gung-ho, but they're open, they're friendly, they're great. They believe some of this, for sure. Some of them even believe all of it. Go add
I would just like
and
to
then,
add a comment to that.
Okay.
For one thing, I would go with the functional medicine doctor, and number two, I would be your own doctor and do your own research. Because that's where it's going to be, is I think being your own doctor and
empowering yourself is important. It's very important. It's very important. So actually, let's end on that. So I do think, again, if you I know it's cheesy, but you guys deserve to have a great life. I do too. Everybody in this room does, and I want you guys to have the best life you can. I know that eating healthy, living healthy can give you a long, strong life. Why don't you just come up to me afterwards if that's okay, because we're just going to end. What? Okay, could you mind just coming up to me afterwards? So I was going to end, and I'm not going to go anywhere. Okay? You guys, it's amazing to see you all in this room. You inspire me. Thank you. And Julie has a few things to say.
Thank you, Betsy. I just want to first of all thank all of our volunteers tonight. At the front table, we had Yona, Leslie, Amy, and Leah. And we had Glory Hodge in back over by the voting table. Our chili makers were myself, Betsy, Nora, and Monica Meyer. And also Chris Christensen was in charge of the cornbread. We also had Rosamund Finley, Eileen Scheidel, Amanda McKinney, and Jessica McFarland also helping out on that. Again, thanks to Jeba, thanks to Jan for helping with the facility, and thanks to Richard for taping this, because this will be available for people who did not come tonight. So it'll be posted on the Facebook page, and we'll share the link to it. And the winner of, by a landslide, the winner of the chili contest was Monica Meyer in Roland Bowl for her creamy chili. So come on up and get your prize.
Yay! Here we are. Hold this. Yep.
So this was our inaugural, so we have a certificate, which I'll fill out for you. We have also a $25 gift certificate. And also, an organization I'm extremely close to, and Betsy started at, was PBNSG up in Detroit. They've been around for 6 years, have over 7,000 members, and that's where I got the inspiration for this group. But they just published a new perfectly plant-based cookbook. It's by a variety of chefs and authors, and it just came out about a week or two ago. So you also get that. So thank you. Thank you, everybody, very much for coming, and we hope to see you at the next event. And we hope to get some more volunteers. And again, thank you for everything. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.